Hey, how's it going everybody? So this video is going to be just a little bit different from what I would typically post. So about a month and a half ago, I hit 5,000 subscribers, which by the way, thank you guys so much for that. That is absolutely amazing. I was originally going to film this video in celebration of that. Unfortunately though, I got sick and my voice ended up going out on me. And then after I got done being sick, I ended up putting my time into other projects. So I guess better late than never, right? So I'm going to be showing you guys two things. The first thing is going to be my setup. I'm going to show you guys all the equipment that I use, such as my microphone, my monitors, my computer. And the second thing is going to be me showing you the software that I use to record and edit my videos. And then after that, I'm going to demonstrate how I do some of the effects that you guys see within my videos, suggested by these people here. Thank you very much for the suggestions, by the way. So I'll show you guys how I do things like subtitles, or how I zoom in the camera, or how I tilt the camera. And I'll also throw in a couple other things that some of you guys might find interesting. But I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna cut the screen to black just so we can get into it right now. Alright, so this is just a quick overview of my setup and what it looks like. It's pretty basic, no flashy lights or anything like that, besides maybe my keyboard. I like to try and keep it as least distracting as I can for when I'm trying to edit. It's not exactly the most eye-catching thing ever, but it works for me. So with that out of the way, let's just get to the actual equipment. So the microphone I use is called the AUDIO-TECHNICA AT2035, and in my opinion, it sounds amazing. In fact, I'm speaking through it right now, but what do I know? I'm not exactly an audio expert, so you all can judge for yourselves. It's an XLR microphone, which means if I were to yell as loud as I possibly could into this thing, the audio would not pop or it wouldn't distort like it would if, say, you were using a USB microphone. Unfortunately, though, I can't do that because I live in an apartment with some thin-ass walls, and I really don't want to risk a noise complaint. So the thing you see holding up my microphone is called the Rode PSA-1, and I actually had to look up the name for that because I could not for the life of me remember what the hell this thing was called. So basically what it does is it keeps my mic off the desk and out of the way if I'm not using it, or if I am using it, it lets me position the mic in pretty much any way that feels comfortable to me. It's just really convenient to have. So if you're gonna use an XLR microphone, you obviously need a mix amp to plug it into or it's not gonna work. This is the one I use. It's called the Line 6 UX2. And basically what it does is it powers the microphone, receives the audio from it, and converts it into a digital signal. And from there, it can also act as a voice changer, which we'll get into when I'm showing you guys the software later on. And it's also not just for microphones. You can actually plug in a guitar to this thing and it'll also convert that to a digital signal, and you can make music from it. It's just a really cool piece of equipment. Alright, so now let's talk about my headset, or what's left of it. So I had a Turtle Beach headset a while back, but it fell off my desk, and one of the earpieces snapped off, so I just kind of kept the mixer from them, and just plugged my earbuds into it. And these are what I use to listen to my friends when we are recording. And now we come to my mouse and keyboard. And I'm gonna be honest, I know literally nothing about these things other than the fact that they were made by Alienware. I got these as a Christmas gift a few years ago, but I never really took the time to look at the name or the model of them. If I can figure out the names of them as I'm editing this, I'll obviously put them up on screen, but as of right now, I just have no idea. They're colorful though, so I guess there's that. These are my monitors. They're each 23 inches. They run at 1080p at 75 hertz or 75 frames a second. And I actually highly recommend these. They're not the best monitors ever, but if you're on a budget or if you're just looking for decent monitors at a cheaper price, these will get the job done fairly well. And they'll also last you a while, because I've had these for 3 years now, almost constantly running, and I have yet to have a single issue with either of them. And now we come to the main attraction, my PC. So for those of you who are curious, I'll put the spec list up on the screen right now. I know there's probably going to be some of you out there who don't understand what any of that stuff means, so I'll try and simplify it as best I can for you. This thing has an i7 8700K processor with 6 cores. For a graphics card, it's got a 1080 Ti, and it also has 32 gigs of RAM. And if there's still anybody out there that doesn't understand what any of that means, this thing is amazing and it will do whatever and play whatever I want with absolutely no issues whatsoever. Alright, so that was my setup. I'll be sure to leave you guys some Amazon links down in the description just in case you might want to pick one of these items up for yourself later on. But now, let's move to my desktop so I can show you guys all the programs that I use. Welcome to my desktop. As you can see, it's relatively plain, no fancy background or anything like that. I like to keep it fairly minimal. It just makes it have a clean feel to it. And since it's mostly a black background, it's less straining on my eyes for when I'm trying to edit at nighttime. But let's start this off with all the programs that I use to record all of my videos with. And that is these right here. So the main program I use is this one right here called OBS Studio. It's a free program and it's what I'm actually using to record this video right now with as we speak. As you can see by how it's doing this weird continuous loop effect, that means that it's currently recording the screen that it's on. Now this program is pretty cool because not only does it record video, but it also records all the audio that you guys hear in my videos, such as my voice, my friends' voices, and the game audio itself. But not only does it do that, but if you look down here, it actually splits all those audio channels into separate tracks when I drag the video into my editing software, so that not all the sounds are mixed into one file. So for example, my voice is separate from my friend's voice, and their voices are separate from the gameplay audio, and the gameplay audio is separate from everyone else's voice. It's all really convenient and it makes my life so much easier when I'm trying to edit a video, because say if there's an unwanted noise or if someone's talking while I'm talking, I could just cut them out and it'll be like I'm the only one speaking at that time. So if you ever want to try to record games on PC, this is most definitely the program to use in my opinion. But moving on, we now come to the second piece of software that I use to record my gameplay, and that is the Elgato game capture software. So for those of you who don't know what an Elgato is, basically it's a capture card that you plug your console into via HDMI and it'll record the gameplay from that, and it goes through this software. So this program is what I would use to record gameplay for my Xbox, mainly Red Dead Redemption 2, because that's the only console game that we play as of right now. Now I don't have my Xbox hooked up at the moment, but if it were hooked up, this is where you would see the footage from it. Then you come down here, hit this big red button, and it'll start to record the gameplay. So when we do record on console, I use this software to only capture the gameplay, and I have OBS running in the background to capture my voice and my friends' voices. And I take the two clips and I sync them up in my editing software. And that pretty much does it for that. So these two icons right here are actually just settings for my microphone software, and that is called Line 6 Pod Farm. Now this is the software that I mentioned earlier that came with my microphone's mix amp. There's not really much to this program, other than that it lets me do cool voice changer effects such as being lost in a cave, or I could be a transformer. Autobots, roll out. Or if I really wanted to, I could become an astronaut.
Houston, we have a problem. My dick is really small. Over.
Or if I absolutely wanted to, I could be a really annoying transformer lost in the cave. Autobots, help me, I'm stuck in here! I'm just kidding, I won't actually put you guys through that noise. That shit's annoying. But yeah, that pretty much does it for all the software that I use to record my videos with. So let's move on to what I would edit them with. So these right here are all the programs that I use to make my videos come together. So starting off first, we have Adobe Premiere Pro. This is the main software that I use to edit on, and I'll go a little more in depth with it later on, but this is where all of my videos are made. And if I go down here and bring it up, as you can see, I'm actually editing this video that you're watching right now on it as we speak. Pretty trippy, right? But again, I'll give a little more explanation when I'm done showing you guys all the other programs that I use. And next up, we have After Effects. Now, the only time I ever really use this program is when I have an effect that I want to do but can't be done within Premiere itself. But one major thing that I did make with After Effects was actually my outro screen. As you can see here, these are the particle effects that you see floating around in the background of my outro. And then if I actually pull it up, you can actually see those same particles right there. And everything else that you see floating around like this was all also done in After Effects. But other than that, I really don't use it all that much, but it's still really nice to have. And now we come to Photoshop, which is the second most used program on my computer. This is the program that I make all of my thumbnails on. As you can see, this is the thumbnail from my previous video, the Contagion video that I posted. And also, if you've ever seen any graphics pop up in my video, they were also made within Photoshop. There's not really much else to say about it. This is just where I make all of my picture-based things. I guess while we're here, I could give you a little behind-the-scenes look at my thumbnails. So a little funny Easter egg about my thumbnails is that the background has always been a picture of my GTA character. When I was thinking up an idea for a new thumbnail style, I just put this as the background, just as like a placeholder, and it ended up looking not all that bad, so I just kind of kept it ever since. So from here, if we go all the way up the list, we just add a couple effects. These are just a couple of textures that I turn the opacity down on. And then we can add the signature blue, and as we scroll up, we add the little white rectangle. Let's add a little texture to that rectangle. And then this is just the base thumbnail. This is what it would look like if it were just plain. And then after that, we add all the bits for the game that this video was specifically made for. So in this case, it's Contagion. So it's zombies. So there's obviously gonna be some blood. We need the game logo in there. And then we need a character from the game itself. And then just for fun, let's add a little muzzle flash to his pistol. Bam. There you go. And that is how I would make my thumbnails. So now we move on to the final piece of software that I use, and it's the one that I also use the least, and that is called Adobe Audition. So if I bring up the software right now, you can see Adobe Audition is basically used for mostly audio stuff. The thing that I use it for is, say if I have a compilation of sound effects that I downloaded, and I only want one specific sound, I'm gonna play this clip that I already loaded in here as an example. Alright, so as you can see, it's just a big compilation of sound effects, and I really like that little pop sound effect at the beginning, this one right here. So I want to get that on its own. So what I do is I just highlight the rest of it, hit the delete button, and boom. We have that one specific sound effect on its own, and I can just export it into its own sound file. And that pretty much does it for all of my programs that I use. And now we're gonna move on to Premiere, and I'm gonna show you guys how I do some of the effects that I do in my videos. Alright, so here we are back in Premiere. Now before we start, I want to make clear that this is in no way meant to be a tutorial, but it's just me showcasing to you how I personally do things. So I'm not going to go totally in depth with every little detail of what I'm doing, but I'm going to try my best to make sure you all have an understanding of what's going on. Also, if you have Premiere and know what I'm doing, and if you want to follow along, please feel free. And I'm pretty sure some of these techniques would also work in other editing programs. So with that being said, let's start off with subtitles. So depending on the situation, I do either two types of subtitles. Full sentence subtitles, which is where I show the entire sentence on screen, or one after another subtitles, which is where I only show one word at a time. And I'm going to demonstrate both of these with these voice lines that were just graciously provided to me by my good friend Untitled Jedi, aka Tyler.
People say nothing is impossible, but I do nothing every day. Oh my fucking god, dude, this is fucking bullshit.
Now the first line was him just speaking normally, and the second was him speaking as if he were angry at something, and you'll see why in a second. So let's start with the first line. The first thing I do is make a text layer. Alright, now that the text layer has popped up, I like to center it, and if it's a typical conversation that I'm subtitling, then I usually move it towards the bottom of the screen, and then I'll highlight it, and then I will just grab a font that I like. So that one looks pretty good. Now what I do is I zoom in on the track and go to the first word.
People say.
Alright, so the first word is people. I zoom in and I make sure that that first line matches up with the beginning of the text. And now I change that text to the first word that he says, people. And then after that, I go down to the text layer and I split it where he says the second word.
We'll say.
So right there is where he begins to say. I split it there. Then I go to this next track, and then I type the word say next to people. And then I'm gonna continue this for each individual word that he says. So I'm gonna do the rest of this quote off camera, and I will come back as soon as it's finished. Alright, so a couple minutes later for me, but probably a split second for you guys, I'm back, and this is the final product.
People say nothing is impossible, but I do nothing every day.
So if we were going for a simplistic look, this would be fine, but we're gonna try and make this look a little nicer. So what you wanna do is go back to that first text layer and highlight it, and go over here to effect controls, and make sure this is scrolled all the way back to the beginning of that layer. Then what you wanna do is set a keyframe for the position. And then for that first keyframe, make sure that the text is scrolled off screen. So pull it down, just so it's just off screen. You don't gotta go any further than that. Then skip forward 4 frames, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then go back to the position where you want it to be, which is 540. And then you want to subtract 10 numbers from that, so put it down to 530. That will make the word be just slightly above where you want it to be. And then what you want to do is skip forward again another 4 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then put this number back to the original number of 540. And then when that's done, if you take this back and you watch that word, it should have a little bounce effect to it. And if I pull that in full speed,
people say nothing is
that little bounce effect just kind of makes it look a little more professional than what it really is. And it's also super simple to do. Alright, so I already went ahead and subtitled the second clip off camera just because it basically follows the same principle as the first one did, except you're not typing the entire sentence out, you're just typing out word for each of the text layers. And here's an example of how it turned out.
Oh my fucking god, dude, this is fucking bullshit.
So if you notice there, some of that text was shaking. And that's a little trick I like to use to show expression. So as you heard, he was really angry when he was saying those words, so I made those words shake to show his anger. Now the way I did that is I came over here to my effects panel, and I have this little third-party plugin here called Camera Shake. Now a third-party plugin is something that does not come standard with the program itself. I actually had to download this from another company's website and install it to Premiere. So basically what I would do is I would click on this and drag it all the way over here onto one of those words that he was the most angry on. Now I already did that, so I'm not going to do it again, but I'm going to click on one of those words, and then I'm going to scroll down here, and then here are the options for that plugin. So right here is just a single word, so as you can see, it just makes it shake. Now if I come over here and I increase the amount number, so let's put it up to say 6. Let's do 7 just for the hell of it. So now that I increased it to 7, obviously it's gonna shake a lot more. Definitely a lot more violent. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that back down to around a 3. And now what I could also do to show a little bit more expression is go down here to motion blur and then turn that on. Now see that the word got a little bit blurrier. That's because now when it moves, it has motion blur. As you can see, my computer kind of struggles to handle that. But yeah, I just feel like it's kind of a little unique thing that nobody else really does, at least in this style anyways. But that's pretty much how I subtitle in a nutshell, and it's definitely a lot more simpler than some people might think it really is. But now I'm going to show you guys how I zoom in on things and how I were to rotate or tilt the camera. So believe it or not, zooming and tilting is actually much simpler than doing subtitles. And for my example, I'm just gonna use the clips from the beginning of this video of me just talking. So I'm gonna play those right now. Or how I zoom in the camera, or how I tilt the camera. Alright, so let's start with the zooming. Let's go back to the beginning of this clip. And then I already have all the keyframes set up from the start of this video. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit this little arrow, go to the first keyframe. This is where the animation would start. So for the first keyframe, the numbers on it should not be changed at all. So then what you wanna do is you wanna skip forward 4 frames. I'm just gonna click this button since I already have the keyframe set up. So this is the part where you get to play with the numbers and choose where you want the camera to zoom in at and what position you want it to zoom in at. So let's say if I think that this is too close, I can zoom the camera out just a little bit. And if I mess with the position, I can also move it a little bit downwards to show off a little more of like the body area. But for the sake of this video, I'm gonna keep it at what it was before. So now that you got the camera to zoom into where you want it to zoom in at, zoom in the camera. Now you gotta go all the way to where you want it to start to zoom out at, which is this point right here. You wanna hit these 2 buttons right here because that'll copy the numbers from the previous keyframes. And then you wanna go ahead and skip forward another 4 frames and then hit the reset button. It'll send all the settings back to where they were before you zoomed in the camera, and it'll automatically bring it back into place. So for example, or how and the camera's back to normal. Now we're gonna scroll on over here, and it's literally the exact same thing with the camera tilt. The first frame should just be all defaults, the rotation should be at 0 and the scale should be at 100. Skip forward 4 frames, and then rotate the camera to whatever number you want it to be, and make sure you scale it up so that if the edge of the video starts showing, you can crop it out. And then you move it forward to where you want it to rotate back into place, which in my case, it was on a jump cut, but literally all you have to do to work with that is just copy these last 2 keyframes that you did, copy those numbers. You just paste those keyframes at the very start of the video and then skip forward 4 frames and then reset them to defaults. And that's literally it, that's all there is. And one last thing that I want to show you guys that's going to go with the zooms and the tilts are sound effects. So if you noticed at the beginning of this video when I zoomed in the camera and tilted it, I had a couple sound effects that went with it. I just feel like those kind of add to the effect. So what you want to do is you just grab yourself a little cartoon sound effect or a whoosh noise, and you go to right before the animation is about to start, and you take that sound effect and you put it right there. Zoom in the Yep, there you go. And then same thing for when the camera is going to go back to normal. Or how and it's the same thing with the tilt. Just put the sound effect right before it's about to happen and tilt the camera. Boom. And then one more before the camera goes back to normal. And I'll also throw in a couple. And that's pretty much it. So one last little trick that I do with my videos to try and make them pop out a little more is raise up the saturation a bit. So as you guys can see here, the video kind of looks a little washed out, all the colors look a little dull. So if we go over here to my effects panel, I added this effect called 3-way color corrector. Now I don't actually use any of these, but I scroll down and I go to this tab called master saturation. By default it's set to 100, and what I like to do is set it up to 180. So as you can see, nothing changed, and that's because I actually have the effect disabled right now. So if I scroll up and re-enable it, now all the colors start to pop out. As you can see, the blues are much more vibrant, my skin tone has a much more lively look to it, and it just makes the video look overall aesthetically better, in my opinion. And I do this with literally every single video that I make. And with that little last piece of advice, I think that would conclude the tour. Alright everybody, if you're still here, thank you so much for listening to me talk for about 20 minutes straight. I hope this video gave you a good look at how not just me, but also all my friends and I make our videos. Obviously we do more than what I showed you, but I wanted to just let you all in on some of the basics. To my knowledge, I haven't seen anybody that does our style of videos do something like this, so I figured I could give you all a unique perspective on what goes into making our videos. And I also want to state for the record real quick that you don't need the most expensive equipment, and you don't need the best editing software out there. Do they help? Sure. But we all start somewhere. In fact, I'm gonna link in the description my very first video that I ever posted on this channel, just so I can show you guys how I started out. You learn as you go, and you eventually acquire better equipment, and you acquire better software. Patience is the key. Now before I end this, I just want to give a huge thank you to all you guys. The support recently has been insane and the channel has been doing amazing. And now at what I would assume to be a little over 20 minutes, it's time to bring this video to a close. Peace out everybody, thank you for watching.